Okay, so we just did the graphing calculator stuff on this page. I do not like these modeling problems at all. They're very confusing. So what I'd like for you to do real quick is I just want to do the first problem in the homework 81 together so that we are looking at a real world application problem instead of just kind of those funky random tables that were given to us in our notes. So what I want you to do is find homework number 81. Let's just look at number 1 together. And I'm just going to kind of walk you through how we use this with a real world application like this. So this first problem has years since 1950. Okay, so 0 is 1950, 10 is 1960, and so on. And the population in Anchorage, Alaska. What we're going to do is go into our stat menu, go into edit, clear out whatever is in your list. Okay, and I'm going to enter in my input, which is years, into L1, and my output into L2. Okay, so I want to be able to put in years since 1950 and be able to estimate what the population may be. Okay, so in L1, I'll enter in the 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. In L2, and it's funny because our table goes this way, right? So we just have to be careful. So there's L1 and then L2. So take a moment and do that. Careful with those numbers. Make sure you get all your zeros and everything. I think I have it in there correctly. Okay. Now we want to determine what model fits it best. So does it look linear or quadratic or exponential? Pause the video if you need to still enter in your table. So now I'm going into y equals, making sure my plot is on, I'm good. And I hit zoom 9 to see my data. And I would say that's pretty obvious that it's an exponential curve there, okay? So now it says use your calculator to determine the regression model for this data. That's what we were just doing in the first part of these notes. So this is where I go into stat and go over to calc. And for this one, because it's exponential, we'll hit option 0. And that's going to give me my equation. Okay, so I have my data in. Starting part 2, which is get the equation, go stat over to calc, option 0, calc, enter, and I know that I can plug in A and B to my function up here, and my correlation is pretty good here. So I have y equals, let's round to, I don't know, 2 decimal, let's round, it's a hard one. Round to 3 decimal places. So 9041.997 is my A value. B value of 1.092, rounding them both to 3 decimal places to the x power. So my calculator has given me this exponential function that matches this table closely, somewhat closely, okay? And then I can use that to make predictions. So now that I have this equation, it says use this equation to predict the population 60 years out in 1950. And I know, again, this is X and that's Y. This is my input. And here's my output. So years is an X value. So I can just plug in 9041.997. It looks like it's growing at about 9.2%, right? Oops, and for X, I'm gonna plug in 60, sorry. And I'm just gonna let my calculator do that. So 9041.997 times 1.092 to the 60th power. Tells me that my population, and I'll round to the nearest person, 1776735, would be about 1,776,735 people. approximately 60 years after 1950, 2010. And then use this equation to predict the current population. So current would be the year 2021, but we're not going to plug in 2021. That means that my X value, so years since 1950, well, it's 50 years to get to 2000, right? And then 21 more years. So that's going to be 71 years total from when 1950, okay? So I have Y equals 9,041.997, 1.092. And now we're going to look, okay, what about 71 years later? Okay, and I'm going to same thing in my calculator. I'm just going to type that in. You do the same. 71st power. And I get, let's see, 4, 6, 7, 8, 1, and I'm going to round to the nearest person, so 2, 4. So that's giving me 4,678,124 people. Okay, if it were to continue to grow like that. Now, probably it's going to plateau at some point or slow down and not grow quite at the same rate, but certainly has been growing rapidly since 1950, given that scatter plot that we have. So what you'll see in the homework is kind of going between, here's a table, use that stat editor to get an equation and then answer questions. And then also the modeling that we saw before, where it's like, here's the equation, answer a few problems. Some of them are systems of equation problems that you got to use the calculator for. And so on the back side of that, you'll see again, okay, so here's a table, use your calculator, the stat menu to get the model, answer questions, versus here's a model, here's some questions, you're still going to need your calculator for it, but in a different way. Okay, so kind of alternates back and forth there.